This is Alicia Lawrence from WebPageFX bringing you another SEO webinar through Schweike Media. Google recently updated their Webmaster Tools section about transferring, moving, and migrating a website. You can see here on the screen, this is what they've updated, and they made it very simple to use and easy to understand exactly what you need to do to keep or even boost your rankings when you do decide to move your site. But when should you consider moving your site? We're going to look at the 4 basic types of moves, their pros and cons, and some tips when moving your website. So we're going to call this moving day. And this is what you need to know before you move your site. Now, before we start, I just want to mention some brief things. Before making any changes to your site, be sure to back everything up. Make a copy of all current HTML, graphics, and files just in case something happens when moving your site. Even if it is a simple web host change, you want to make sure to back up your site. Also, always keep the customer top of mind. If you make changes on your website, your customers should know what to expect. Have a banner or pop-up on your site, nothing that's too annoying, but something that alerts customers of upcoming changes or when the change has taken place or will take place, and what that means for the customers on your site. Is it a web design? Will it be down for a few days, or is there going to be a rearrangement of pages or URLs that they need to be aware of? Third, you'll hear a lot throughout this webinar that if you are going to change it, then improve it. Some of these migrations can be done without harming your ranking. But if you are going to change something like URL paths or keyword insertions, then you might as well improve upon what you have and go all the way with revamping your site. And lastly, typically it takes 3 to 6 months for your old rankings to be re-achieved at Google when moving to a new domain. So just keep that in mind. You might see a slight drop as Google is trying to adjust some 301 redirects or whatever you have set up. But just be patient, wait that 3 to 6 months. That also means during that time you should keep a close eye on your rankings just to make sure Google is still reading your pages and your new pages correctly. So the first type of move that we're going to talk about is changing your site design. Some pros and cons: you could lose ranking, but it might be worth it to have a more user-friendly site that attracts more customers. And when it comes to losing rankings, it really depends if you change URL paths. And like I said before, sometimes you can change the site design while keeping all the content and the URLs the same so that it doesn't have too much impact on your rankings. And of course, the con for site design is it gets expensive. But sometimes it's worth it because once you have a more user-friendly site and sometimes even better SEO with that, you will boost your rankings and boost your traffic and eventually boost your net worth. A few tips to go along with that: keep the same file naming structures for ranking and for those who have links to your site. And also that means that if you have someone that has bookmarked your site quite often, like if you're a magazine and people constantly bookmark, or you use Pinterest to save your articles, this way when someone clicks on that in the future, it won't go to a 404 page. It will go straight back to the original page because you kept that naming structure. If you do decide to change it, just make sure you use 301 redirects for the old and change URLs to the new page. And of course, you need to make sure you create a 404 page, which I'll show you a great example of that in the next slide. This makes it easier for clients and for customers to find what they're looking for when they aren't used to the new design. And create new XML sitemap and also the user sitemap. And you want to make sure you submit the XML sitemap to Google. And don't forget to make sure you always make it top of mind. Customers are very important during a site design to make sure they know how to use the new site. Don't get confused or frustrated and leave your company for another one just because of a web design. Lastly, keep title tags and content similar to keep the page rankings. If page rankings stink, then, sure, optimize it, change it, but just remember that's going to take more work. So, like I said before, if you're going to fix it, then you should improve it. Put together an information architecture and keyword mapping report. And if you need help with that, contact an SEO firm. Those are things that you definitely do not want to screw up on your site. Next one Next type of format that you're going to move to is changing your content management system. Oh, actually, we had the 404 page example here. This is from Anthony Brand, and this is one that WebPageFX actually designed. And you know, it has that humor, but it also has all those links on the bottom that will help you find whatever they're looking for if they do end up getting lost. Now we're back onto changing your CMS or content management system. Some pros or cons: it's easier back-end site management for you, and it has potential to save you thousands of dollars if you publish a lot of content. However, if switching to a different CMS causes your syntax to change, then it could affect your ranking. Also, when many businesses transfer over their content to a different CMS, they often change pages or URLs, which can make the move more complicated and very detrimental to good rankings. A statistic here for you: according to Vassant, which is a CMS provider, Vassant clients average 71% content reuse. That's huge. It saves a considerable amount of time on creating new content. Some tips when switching CMSs: identify your needs and know how the CMS that you want will impact or meet those needs or overcome a certain challenge that your business is facing. Some people like to go onto all the different CMSs and see the cool packages that come with each, and there are tons of different packages and companies they go with, from simple to very complex depending on how much content you actually use. But don't be fooled by the amount that they offer. What you really need to make sure is that they meet your needs. So first off, write down just what your company needs or what you want your CMS to help your company to overcome. And this way you can make sure you do get a CMS that meets your needs and meets what you actually want it to do. And of course, be aware of the domino effect. If you correct one thing like keywords and URLs or something very simple, that means you have to change a whole slew of things that are affected by it. If you do choose to fix something, like I said, by all means, make sure it's the best by improving it, but be aware of everything you have to do to keep up your rankings so your one little tweak doesn't bring down your whole SEO house of cards. Next, we're going to talk about the third type of change or move, and that's changing the site name. This includes in changing from, let's say, example.com to examples.com, or just simply example.com to example.net. Pros and cons of this: maintains link equity if you redirect everything, though it might still affect SEO temporarily as the search engine sorts out your redirects. Think again though, if you're doing it to get away from a penalty, because even if you don't redirect all your old links, Google can sometimes pick up that you moved domains and will send your penalty from your old site to your new site. This doesn't always happen, but if that's the reason why you're switching sites, you might want to rethink it. It's sometimes best to go ahead and try to clean up that old site if you're going to keep everything, and have an SEO firm help you manage all those old links and make sure you have top keywords in all your pages. And once you clean up that old site and resubmit it to Google, that would be easier than changing to a site name and then realizing Google just transferred your penalty. A few tips: use 301 redirects, and I'll include a link that's very good that gives you lots of details about how to do the best practices for 301 redirects down in the copy of this webinar. And keep the old domain for around 10 years if possible. If you can't keep it, that's fine, but you know, once you get rid of it, those redirects won't work. Make sure you have a valid reason before changing your domain name. Could you solve the issue by using a subdomain instead? A subdomain is like, if your name is, we'll just use WebPageFX, subdomain would be blog.webpagefx.com. So see if a subdomain or a certain part of a cutoff of your already named site would do before deciding to change your name completely. And of course, change areas that still have your old domain, like directories that are worth keeping, social media. That's the one bad thing about changing your site name and affecting your URLs, is that you have to go back through all those links that you build up or places that you've given your website URL to and change it. And of course, if possible, ask the high authority websites that are linking to your old site to now link to your new site. Once again, is fairly complicated. And even if the pages they point to are redirected, not all of that link juice actually moves over to the new site. So it's best if you get them pointing to the new site again. And this also means that you can get rid of your old domain quicker without losing a big chunk of your juice after you get rid of it. And lastly, the fourth type of move is changing your web host. This one, it's really just a pro. As long as you take the correct steps to change your web host, this shouldn't have any impact on your rankings. As long as you only change hosting and not your domain name. A lot of people think, oh, well, if I'm changing hosting, I might as well change my domain name. And if I'm changing my web domain name, you know, I might as well insert some keywords and some different URLs, and then it becomes a $100,000 project. So be very careful when you do decide to change your web hosting. Know what exactly, why you want to change it and what exactly you want to change with it, so that you know how much it's actually going to cost and not just the cost of changing that web host. Some tips. Once you move your site to the new host, make DNS changes to point to the new hosting location so that Google can read your live site. And after Google crawls the new location, you can shut down the old hosting location. Just make sure they have crawled all of your new location. And lastly, own your domain name. Sometimes companies say it gets really complicated if you don't own the domain name or you registered it through your hosting site, because, you know, when you leave that other hosting company, they kind of get bitter about it, and, you know, there might be some rough skin there that you have to go against. And you just want to make sure that you can have access to that old domain even after you have switched. Okay, well, that was it. And, you know, if you follow these rules, if you follow Google's new webmaster rules in their moving and migrating section, you can make sure that you are assigned to high heights, just like Dr. Seuss says, and you'll be on your way up. Thanks for listening to another webinar, and if you have any questions, you can email me at Alicia, ALICIA, @webpagefx.com. Thanks.